At the heart of this report are the stories of 2,400 survivors, many of whom are here today. To every person who took part, I say thank you for your exceptional strength, your incredible courage, and your confronting honesty. Because of you, we know the truth about the abuse and the trauma that you endured. I cannot take away your pain, but I can tell you this: you are heard and you are believed. Many of your stories are horrific and harrowing. They are painful to read, but not nearly as painful as they were to endure. A number of faith-based schools, institutions, and people in positions of authority who you should have been able to trust failed you in the worst possible way. When you tried to speak up, those same people turned a blind eye. They covered it up, and they prevented you from seeking justice for far too long.
For too long, across governments, across generations, far too many people have turned their backs on you. The state and its institutions not only allowed this abuse to happen, it then denied you your voice and, worse, covered up the extent of the atrocities that took place. Reading the report, Mr. Speaker, I cannot imagine how it would feel to be told as a child that nobody loves you. And then, for those who were entrusted to care for you, to then set about demonstrating that through their actions. I cannot imagine the trauma, the lifelong trauma that would have inflicted. I was moved by a quote relatively early in the report from one of the survivors. I was always unwanted as a little kid, and now I always think I'm unwanted by other people or my partners. The trauma endures. The trauma doesn't go away.
I just wanted to acknowledge the weight of history and of resilience and the potential for healing that currently exists palpably in this room. Words cannot adequately convey the systemic failures and the injustices perpetuated by the state. But words do matter. They are something to be held accountable to. And so, joining with all of Parliament, let it be clear that we in the Greens are so deeply sorry. Today's apology is long awaited. I want to acknowledge that this morning many survivors told us that they believe that this apology should have happened on their terms and in their turf, not in this institution which has caused so much harm. And I hope that is the government's next step. We can own our history and we can do better. The buck stops here. We either do something or we don't. We either centre the pleas of survivors or we don't. We either tinker or we transform. Now, we here in the Greens can commit wholesale to the foundational recommendation of the report to work in a cross-party manner to establish and to work through the recommendations of the inquiry.
I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge those who are no longer with us. Those who never had a chance to hear their voices heard. Those souls who left this world only knowing the horrors they experienced, the cruelty and the unbearable treatment that they received. As both Minister for Prevention of Family and Sexual Violence and Minister for Children, this report is extremely important. It helps myself and those working within this space now to have a true understanding of how the state and faith-based agencies so badly failed in their basic duty of care and protection. The fact that so many offenders were able to victimise and harm repeatedly for years on end, negatively impacting countless children and their families for generations long past their own lifetimes, is devastating and unacceptable. The ease with which these crimes were committed is horrifying. These perpetrators knew that society was conditioned to not believe young victims. These monsters used their positions of authority both as a weapon and a shield. Children believed that police, government, and other adults who were complicit in the abuse due to the stonewalling of their cries for help, and rightly so. We must take a long, hard look at not only the perpetrators, but those who enabled this abuse to continue for so long by choosing to look the other way.
The release of this 3,000-page report, culminating from 6 years of hearing truth and pain, is by no means an end point. It is just the beginning. It has proved to the world beyond any form of doubt the reality of state and church-sanctioned abuse. It also proves that for years, successive governments have spent more time, effort, and money trying to hide that reality, to save its own reputation, as opposed to saving the lives of innocent children.